Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Roseville Wrecking Ball. The Roseville Wrecking Ball.
Joshua Shrum. He is a very talented steward, very knowledgeable.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. This is one of those podcasts where I listen to every episode. I love what he's putting out there.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. Josh Shrum.
Parcels of Knowledge. Does a fantastic job with that podcast.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. He is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God. We need Article 8 scholars right now.
Tune into the Parcels of Knowledge podcast while you're on the route. That's the mailman's playbook, brother.
Good morning, and welcome back to Parcels of Knowledge, that podcast dedicated to delivering knowledge to the city letter carrier with your host, the Roseville Wrecking Ball. Today we got quite a short episode. It's just something that I had thought that maybe you should know is a violation. But before we get into the good business, we're going to talk about, man, if you didn't see it already, Region 6, that last podcast with Walt McGregory, candidate for MBA for Region 6, national candidate on the CLC slate. It was a good one. You guys did what you were expected to do because I asked you, hey, I said, man, these guys have been getting easy questions. I said, can you send in some good ones? And you really did. You outperformed me. You outperform my expectations. Shit, even if you're not from Region 6, I think you could enjoy that podcast. So, if you haven't seen it yet, go check out the last episode, episode 81, if I'm not mistaken. It was a good one. I didn't do an introduction because I was on a time crunch. I had some things going on. But yeah, great episode. Next candidate that I'll be interviewing is Dana Chambliss. And if you guys are fans of Corey Walton, you know who Dana Chambliss is. She is the president of Corey Walton's branch. Can't remember the branch number, but she's from Tennessee. And she's running for a national position. And it's one of those positions that's not region specific. So if you have any questions to send Dana Chambliss, please send them to my email, rosevillewreckingball@yahoo.com. She's going to answer any question you send her. I imagine this is going to be a good episode as well. I heard Dana Chambliss is pretty cool. But ultimately, you'll get to decide because that's what this is about. We're talking about transparency in elections. And the best thing you can do to make sure you have a good election is to make sure everyone understands who the candidates are, what they stand for, and where they come from. So without that, you won't have a really good election because nobody will have an idea of who they're voting for. They're only going to go based on who everyone says to vote for, which is not the way to do it. Get to know your candidates, guys. Please send in questions to rosevillewreckingball@yahoo.com. I would ask any and every question you send in, and she will answer any and every question, just like my podcast has always done. That'll be this Saturday, this upcoming Saturday. So you got a little bit less than a week. Send me your questions. I want some good ones, please. Let's get to know Dana Chambliss. But yeah, on to today's main topic. Like I said, today's going to be real short. I just thought you guys would think this was interesting. So, apparently, there are some branches who allow the insurance companies to go to the branch meetings and basically solicit membership into their insurance policy. And apparently that is unconstitutional because Article 8 of the NBA Constitution states, no state association or branch of the NALC or officer or member of the NALC shall take any action or make any statement whose purpose is to undermine the NBA, encourage a rival to it, or bring about a violation of its legal or contractual obligations. That part right there is a little bit less common. But I got something else. Comes from a article from the Postal Record, and there's something that they've been violating here at Roseville that I haven't realized, and maybe it's happening everywhere. I'm not sure. I'm sure some offices know better, but it's something that maybe you might not think is a big deal, but I think it's a big deal. So that is important, but sometimes these insurance companies will come to the Postal Service. I've had that once. I didn't know it was a violation. I should have filed a grievance, but by now it's untimely. That solicitation prohibition comes from the Postal Operations Manual, section 124.54, but although solicitation of insurance is disallowed, any solicitation is disallowed for the most part, including via mail. So let me read this Postal Operations Manual section to you, and then I'll explain. Soliciting, it's section 124.54, by the way, and it goes it goes ABC, but also 1, 2, 3. Says it's weird, but anyway, these regulations apply to the following activities, and it's titled Soliciting, Electioneering, Collecting Debts, Vending, and Advertising. Soliciting alms and contributions, campaigning for election to any public office, collecting private debts, commercial and non-profit soliciting, and vending, including but not limited to the vending of newspapers and other publications, the display or distribution of commercial advertising, and soliciting of signatures on petitions, polls, or surveys on postal premise, except as authorized by 39 CFR Part 259, or impeding the access to or egress from post offices are prohibited. This prohibition does not apply to the following: commercial or nonprofit activities performed under contract with the Postal Service or pursuant to the provisions of Randolph-Shepard Act, posting notices on bulletin boards as authorized by 39 CFR 243.2a, or the solicitation of Postal Service and other federal military and civilian personnel for contributions by recognized agencies as authorized by the Manual on Fundraising within the Federal Civil Service, issued by the Chairman of the United States Civil Service Commission under Executive Order 10927, March 13, 1961. Leafleting. So now it goes into B. Those are the three things that the prohibition does not apply to. But the prohibition does apply to leafleting, picketing, demonstrating, and other similar conduct by members of the public is prohibited in lobbies and other interior areas of postal premises otherwise open to the public. Public assembly and public address, except when conducted or sponsored by the Postal Service, are also prohibited in lobbies and other interior areas open to the public. I know it's a little late, but that tells you where you can't be when you're doing your Fight Like Hell rallies. And then solicitations and other actions that are prohibited by 124.54a when conducted on Postal Service property should not be directed by mail or telephone to postal employees on Postal Service property. The Postal Service will not accept or distribute mail or accept telephone calls directed to its employees when such contacts are believed to be contrary to 124.54a. All right, and there's one more part. Except as part of postal activities or as permitted under 17 public service, no tables, chairs, freestanding signs or posters, structures, or furniture of any type may be placed in postal lobbies or on postal walkways, steps, plazas, lawns, or landscape areas, driveways, parking lots, or other exterior spaces. So, what that tells me is, at my office, we have these mailing solicitations, and it's for various different things, but I'm not sure they have a contract through the Postal Service. I don't think some of these guys are probably prohibited under POM 124.55 to solicit employees because it strictly prohibits. Let me take a look. In particular, it strictly prohibits commercial advertisements. So let me see. to be particular, commercial and nonprofit soliciting and vending. So, some of us even have vending machines. Are those vending machines ran by the service or the union, or are they an outside company? If they're an outside company, commercial vending is not allowed. Obviously, this grievance is something you should use sparingly because, of course, if employees are using that vending machine, of course, you're not going to try to stir any kind of commotion about that vending machine. But I think it's important to take this into consideration. I think we should file this grievance if we're getting solicitations via mail, especially by debt collectors or other people who are trying to sell us things. I highly doubt like uniform vendors are prohibited. I'm sure they probably have some sort of contract that would be within the exceptions, but I'm not 100% certain on that. But it is common for me to get mail at my case. Normally it doesn't say my name, Joshua Shrum, or, more commonly known as the Roseville Wrecking Ball, but it does say Route 49. And I'm not sure that's appropriate that I get some of the solicitations that I get. So work with your management teams to try and get this taken care of if you don't want them coming in. And it says that they have the expectation not to allow the solicitation. So they have to remove this mail from the mail stream if they see that it's inappropriate and in conflict with Section 124.54 of the Postal Operations Manual. So, the three exclusions regarding solicitations are not applicable to these outside insurance companies that some branches are allowing in, and also some postal property is allowing in. But more often, letter carriers are solicited by mail at their employing office. This type of solicitation is prohibited and should not be allowed by local management. This prohibition actually comes directly from the federal law, 39 CFR 232.1. So if these solicitations are happening in your location, I'd file a grievance. And for sure, if the solicitations are happening at your branch, talk to your NBA's office or your branch president first. But a lot of people without guts will say, well, where's the harm to the carriers when it comes to the solicitations by mail? Harm to the carriers, I think, should only have to be articulated when you're asking for escalated remedies. If you're asking for a cease and desist, why does there have to be harm in terms of articulating a contract violation? It's very clear. In fact, these arbitrators are most commonly used in contract cases between different employers. Like if you have a contract between Amazon and a vending company, and there's a violation of that contract, and typically arbitrators will say that a contractual violation is a violation, but they don't usually rule anything beyond a cease and desist unless the contract actually allows for that. So I hate these people who just bark, where's the harm, where's the harm? That's something with somebody with no guts would say. If you're trying to ask for the moon, yes, where's the harm? But if you're simply trying to ask them to stop, come on, we got to stop being asinine about this shit. If an arbitrator is not going to accept it because there's no harm, get that guy off the panel. We don't need a guy that says that something that's very clearly a violation of the contract should not be addressed. So hopefully you learned something valuable today. And as always, have a good day.
If these guys are getting educated, we will be in big trouble.
Management's been weighing you down like a bag of wet catalogs, but you don't gotta take it. You strap on the elbow of education, dig it?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Roseville Wrecking Ball. The Roseville Wrecking Ball.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God, we need Article 8 scholars right now. The grievance genius and the Roseville Wrecking Ball doing amazing work.
Tune into the Parcels of Knowledge podcast while you're on the route. That's the mailman's playbook, brother.